be like this guy. You know, you want to guess what this is? Mint. Mint is very invasive. Be careful where you put it. It's a lovely plant, and a cup of tea in the middle of winter from your own plant that you grew and dried. There's just nothing like it. You can't buy anything in the store that's like that. But every single little piece of this mint plant, so all that was sticking out of the ground when I grabbed this was this little tiny piece right here. And I just stuck the shovel in and said, okay, let's see what comes out. And this is what came trailing out. So every little piece of this, where you see a root on there, there's a mint plant. So you could have, you know, 100 mint plants from this, right? So these roots that do this, you see them doing this trailing thing, and this is very indicative of the mint family and anything in the mint family. Then you pull it out and you see it's got this trailing root. Every little piece of that you can make a plant out of. We're going to get to oregano. Basil you always have to do from seed. It's an annual. So annuals you're not going to do this with.
How about blackberries and raspberries that have trailing roots?
I went to see if there were any blackberries or raspberries. With blackberries and raspberries, what's going to happen in the spring is around the plant you're going to see all these new shoots, and generally you're trying to keep your raspberries or blackberries in a certain area, but they'll send out shoots like all over the place, and so to maintain them you'll go through and dig those out, and very often they just get composted. They're, you know, you toss them aside, but you can share them. So you can dig up that just down to where you see some roots on the bottom, and you can go plant it immediately where you want it to go, or give it to your friend, or, you know, share it. You don't want to dig up all of those because those are your canes that are going to produce the berries the following year. And so, you know, you just want to, they generally send up lots of them though once they're established. And so you're just wanting to grab the excess ones that are kind of getting outside of the area you want them to grow in. Did that answer your question? Right on. So we have strawberries. Strawberries, as most people know, have runners. And so, you know, I grabbed this guy, and what we see is we've got this piece. So this would have been from last year's plant. So the mother plant of this one is over here, and then she sent out a runner, and it put down these guys. And so you can separate them out into all the little individual plants, and then these guys this year will send out runners and start new plants. So you can start a strawberry patch with just a few strawberries, and within like 3 years it'll just keep spreading. If you're putting strawberries in a garden setting, you will want to like take out a section of them that are getting old and allow new runners to go in and make new plants, so that you're kind of like going back and forth. The older plants won't produce as well, and so you want them to have new plants like every 2 to 3 years for strawberries. Now we're going to talk about cuttings, and I actually grabbed these from the Fresh Abundance grocery store shelf. You actually can, for the right plants, just walk into the grocery store and do it, or go find someone who's got some. There's lots of people who grow culinary herbs, so we're going to do that. These are some cuttings that I grabbed from my yard. These are English lavender, and this is what they looked like. So I haven't cleaned up my yard yet, and so they still have these long stems where the flower heads were last year, and at the bottom it looks like, so okay, let's see if we can get it down to one. So here we are. So every one of these, this is a new plant right here. And what you're going to do is strip off some of these bottom leaves like this, and you're going to put it in your mix like this. It's any of these. So I brought several different things so that you don't feel limited. So we've got perlite, we've got vermiculite, we've got a peat moss with a perlite mix in it. Just something really light that you can keep moist. And that is really, you don't want to use compost because you don't want to be feeding them yet. You just want to keep them wet. And so, again, we've got, you know, this, and so we've got 2 of these. We can just put it, strip off some leaves off the bottom. Just put it in there. So one little clump. And the other thing is I didn't hurt my plant that is in my yard. Like I love lavender and I have lots of lavender. These are all going to produce this year. So all I'm taking is the top pieces and these, you know, every little one of these. So on this one we've got this little guy and we've got this little guy and we've got this little guy. These are all plants. So if you want a lot of lavender, you can start a whole bunch of lavender plants from a few cuttings without hurting whoever's garden you're taking it from.
And that would be the time to do that again?
Right now. This is, all of this is right now. All right, so this is oregano. I prefer Greek oregano, so if you can find somebody that is a true Greek oregano, this is actually is Greek oregano. So, you know, this was headed for somebody's dinner. And so we've got that came in the package. What I'm going to do is strip it off. So this is 1 plant, not 2. I'm going to, okay, that one broke. It's still fine though. So I'll take it down to this. Or even take off 2 more leaves would be fine. And then stick it in your mix. Okay, that one doesn't do it. Whichever one. This is a little easier to work with. That would probably be a little easier to work with. This needs a sturdy stem, but it'll stay moist. So that's the big thing you're after, is you want it to stay moist. So we've got, this is sage. Lots of people have sage in their yard. Sage will turn to a great big bush, and this is just 1 plant, and you're going to, you know, take like that much of it. Take off a few leaves. You're wanting it to send all its energy to making roots. Leaves start looking for food, so you don't want too many leaves left. You do want to leave a few. So just get it down in there. All right. Then we've got, I got some thyme, and there are, I don't know, over 100 varieties of thyme. You can do this with any of the varieties. So this is a sprig that's got several here. With this, just gonna get a little piece, take off the bottom leaves. Put it in your wet mix. Voila. This is rosemary. There's a lot of kinds of rosemary too. You'll see that some of them are straight, and some of them have various branches, and some of them have short needles, and some of them have long needles. So if you happen to run across one that you're like, oh, I like that particular one, it's going to be easier for me to use in the kitchen, or I just like the composition of the plant. Again, you can, oh, and the other thing that on these, you can actually use several pieces of the stem. So you use the whole stem. So this can be like, this is thyme that I was just doing. That could be 3. So cut it into 3, take the leaves off the bottom, stick it in. And so the same thing with the rosemary is you could cut this into, well, you actually have all these little shoots. Again, just like the lavender that we were looking at. So you have a lot of plants on there. So this could probably be made into 8 or 10 plants, just this little piece right here. And so that's the magic of the bedding plant world. That's how they get and are able to do so many plants. They're generally not starting them from seed. They're starting them from cuttings. This is perennials. So anything you can think of that's in the yard, the snow goes away, it pops back up. Now, obviously not bulbs. Bulbs are, you're going to dig them up and separate them and move them around, and they'll keep making more bulbs. But this, that's a different process.
Is it time to do that now as well?
You can